Hey kids, how you doing? I should hear a good virtual Miss Gruber somewhere in the background. Um, all right, so today you are going to be discussing Creon and loaded language. So what you may have just finished discussing is this question: when a new president comes into power, what image or message is it most important that he convey? I mean, I think that maybe it's important for a president to convey power, good sense, logic, maybe some wartime prowess. I think that's what the populace would answer. In my personal opinion, I think it's important for a president to convey some charisma and warmth and a good sense of control over his language, like an extemporaneous style. That's an on your feet style of thinking where he can think on his feet and it's not just all speechified and pre-written. So that's my opinion, for the books. I am making this recording because I wanted to go over a worksheet that you're going to be doing and define loaded language for you. Sometimes people and leaders assert their agenda using loaded language. To assert an agenda is to be under the radar in communicating what you're actually trying to say. One of the questions I really like thinking about is what's the difference between persuasion and manipulation? It's actually a question that you get asked on some job interviews in the government. So anyway, persuasion and manipulation. What's the difference? So take a pause here and see, do you have any responses to that? Okay, in my eyes, I think that the difference between persuasion and manipulation is that persuasion can be overt. The audience can know, the listener can know that they're being persuaded. However, Mel. However, like if I'm trying to convince you to stay after school, or if I'm trying to convince a friend to come over to my house, that can be persuasion. Manipulation, the hand that pushes you, is invisible. You don't know you're being manipulated. That's why it's manipulation. Your puppet strings are invisible. Okay, so loaded language sometimes does that by asserting its own agenda. So you got a worksheet that looks like this. I'm going to define loaded language, and I want you to write it right in this blank, number 1. Okay? Loaded language is language that has a slant or a bias. Language that has a slant or a bias promoting a specific agenda. Language that has a slant or a bias promoting a specific agenda. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. You write down one. Here's an example of some fair language, neutral language. You've asked for my views on the man named Mr. Smithers. He has been a valued employee here for years. If you can find a position for him in the management sector of your company, I will be pleased. Note the black font, okay? This is loaded language. The blue and the red are the same text. The black has changed. You have asked for my views on that creature named Mr. Smith. He has been a clinging nuisance here for ages. If you can find a crevice for him in the woodwork of your sweatshop, I will be relieved. You can see this second agenda is clearly communicated through language and loaded language. Here's some words that you might be familiar with that contain loaded language. The Patriot Act was an act back after 9/11 where it became okay for the government to check a little bit more closely into people's mails and bank accounts. So pretty much your freedom of speech amendment was pulled back a little bit. Everybody's was. Now, why do you think this is loaded language? Pause me, please. You might have said that the Patriot Act is loaded because if you follow this act, you're a patriot. It's not like you're allowing the government to eavesdrop on you. It's rather you're showing your patriotic duty. An investment in public service, which is really just public spending. We talk about public spending, it sounds like we're spending America's tax dollars. But if we're investing in public service, that sounds a little bit better, and thus it's language that has a slant or a bias asserting the agenda of the people that created it. My fave, no child left behind. Just think about how persuasive this is for a teacher. No Child Left Behind involves PSSA scores and making sure every student gets a certain score on the PSSAs and that there aren't any kids that do not, and eventually we have 100% proficiency. You can imagine the difficulty of that. However, No Child Left Behind, if let's say, and I'm not saying I do, especially because this video is going to be on the interwebs, let's say I disagree with No Child Left Behind, okay? If I disagree with this act, if I don't think it's right, then what am I insinuating? That I like leaving children behind? That I don't mind if a few of you fail? Fine, do your thing. I couldn't care less. I don't care if children are left behind. You know what I mean? So think about how loaded that language is. I was in Subway the other day, and it reminded me of this lesson. So this is an actual question. Would you like low fat or full flavor? This is in reference to mayonnaise. Would you like low fat or full flavor? It's not asking would you like low fat or full fat. Would you like, the fatful version? It's rather the quote unquote full flavor version. So those are just some examples of loaded language. You can pause here and discuss any that you can think of. What you're going to be doing for the duration is this worksheet. You're going to be reading this aloud and then answering these questions. I want you to take extra care to underline the words that are persuasive or powerful because you're going to be reading them aloud in sort of a fun way. So you're going to have some time to complete this, and then after you're done this activity and you've analyzed Creon's persuasiveness, you'll be doing the back of this sheet when you're done at the end of class for Antigone, Creon, and Ismene. Think about, as you're reading, why Creon needs to come off like this, why he might feel he needs to come off like this, and then I want you to reflect on how it's related to this question that you answered. Why does Creon feel like he has to have that tone when he comes into power newly? So think about that. It's your objective for class, and Miss Brooks will take it from here. Thank you, and see you soon.